The year of our Lord 2022 was a fantastic time for horror, but admittedly, there's only so much time in the day. As a result, it makes sense that some great movies slipped through the cracks, whether because they were wrongly given a critical beating or simply because they didn't receive much marketing fanfare. With that in mind then, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 great horror movies you definitely missed in 2022. Number 8, Pray for the Devil. Now, many people, including myself, wrote Pray for the Devil off when it first released. It looked like just your run-of-the-mill possession flick, and while that description might still be true, it is a surprisingly good one. You won't find much of anything that reinvents the wheel here or really puts a twist on things, but it's way better than its measly 17% on Rotten Tomatoes suggests, and in fact, its quality is much closer to its solid 69% nice audience score. The story follows Sister Anne in her pursuit to become an exorcist after her mother was possessed while Anne was just a child. It's one of those exorcism movies as well that's deeply entrenched in religious iconography, nuns, churches, crosses, the whole shebang, but it incorporates the subject matter and visual design in a more convincing way than, say, The Rite or something. With strong scares and some interesting visuals, this is an underrated film through and through, from the director of the similarly underrated 13 Sins no less. Number 7, We're All Going to the World's Fair. We're All Going to the World's Fair is a majorly impactful movie, but it admittedly won't be for everyone. So don't go in expecting big reveals or buckets of gore, as this is an experimental character study more concerned with introspection than spectacle. It follows the young Casey, who enters into an online horror game named The World's Fair, where she and other players chronicle the strange and unexpected things that happen to them in the days and weeks after enrolling via vlogs and online updates. Casey is also contacted by a fellow player who warns that she's in serious danger, and the two strike up a rather peculiar companionship. Whether the game is real or fake isn't really important here. What is important is how Casey reacts to it, posting increasingly unhinged videos. A movie all about those late nights as a teen spent in corners of the internet that you probably shouldn't spend too much time in, all the while trying to come to terms with your own identity. We're All Going to the World's Fair is one of the most unique horrors of the last year. Number 6, The Innocence. Brightburn was a movie that asked the question of what if Superman was bad, while The Innocence, an incredible Norwegian film from last year, is sort of a film that asks what if the kids in the X-Men didn't go to school with Professor Xavier, but actually grew up with abusive parents and bad influences. About a group of young people who acquire strange supernatural powers that allow them to telepathically connect to each other and manipulate the world around them. This dark coming-of-age tale, despite being all about kids, is not afraid to get brutal and graphic. As they each deal with their own issues and understand their abilities, they also realize just how devastating they can be when used with rage and hate. As a coming-of-age tale, the film movingly navigates the weird and oftentimes intense years spent growing up and understanding the world, while as a supernatural thriller, it rises in tension to a cathartic and hugely suspenseful end. Number 5, Deadstream. In Deadstream, Joseph Winter is Sean, a loud, obnoxious streamer and YouTuber, I know, I'm one to judge right, who's constantly trying to outdo himself performing outrageous feats on camera for notoriety and views. After courting controversy with his recent behavior, his latest stunt is an attempt to put himself back on top online. But rather than tone down the shenanigans or anything like that, Sean instead decides to spend a night in a haunted house and live stream his experience for his channel. What could possibly go wrong? Well, naturally, the house actually is haunted, and Sean now not only has to contend with his own comments section, but the threat of supernatural peril as well. A found footage movie, Deadstream breathes new life into a format that many thought had long since been played out. The interactive element of Sean's live chat adds a different dimension to the film without breaking the budget and sets it out from all of its competitors. The gore and scares are imaginative as well, getting a lot of mileage out of this one setting. In terms of tone, this is kind of the found footage Evil Dead movie that you didn't know you needed. Number 4, Sissy. From one social media tinged horror to another now, this one is all about an influencer who runs into the wrong person at the wrong time. Sissy is the former childhood nickname of Cecilia, who has gone on to become a successful online mental health advocate. One day though, she bumps into her old friend Emma and gets invited to her hen party, and shockingly, she accepts. Which is a big mistake, Cecilia. Never reconcile with your childhood friends, it never ever ends well. Now our hero joins Emma and the rest of her gang for a weekend away, suddenly finding herself surrounded by former friends, bullies, and acquaintances who are all harboring their own secrets. So now you have a group of young women, a secluded cabin, an unstable psychopath out for revenge, and you can probably see where this is heading. Sissy is a great teen slasher with plenty of nasty bits to keep those obsessed with gore completely satisfied, but below the surface it also plays around with themes of identity as well, and interrogates who we appear to be online, as that might not always be who we really are in person. Number 3, Incantation. I've talked about Incantation on this channel before, but it really is a memorable found footage horror from last year that blends together a whole bunch of different subgenres. While jumping around different time periods, it primarily follows the story of Lee Ronan, a woman regaining custody of her young daughter that just so happens to be afflicted by a terrible curse. Part Ring, part The Exorcist, part Blair Witch, Incantation's most unique moment comes right at the very end, and I won't spoil it for you here, but let's just say you'll feel a lot more involved in the events of the movie once you find out what it is. Yeah, it's a little bit too long and even corny at times, but as a whole is more than worth your time. Number 2, Watcher. Watcher star Micah Monroe knows a thing or two about appearing in horrors. Monroe was back in 2022 though to head up Watcher, a film in which she plays a woman who fears she's being stalked by a creepy neighbor, and because this is a horror film, well, she is being stalked by a creepy neighbor who also happens to be a serial killer. The mystery and intrigue surrounding the stalker character himself though is excruciating. We all know he's the villain, but Monroe's character just can't prove it. This escalates and escalates, as you can probably imagine, and gets absolutely intense along the way. It's not just Monroe that puts in a good performance here though. Bern Gorman, a guy you absolutely will recognize but probably never knew his name, plays the villain with a chilling lack of emotion, almost taunting both the character and the viewer with just how much power he wields. Number 1, Piggy. Bullies are terrible people. Picking on those less confident than yourself just to fill some empty void in your own life, that is not cool. But do bullies deserve to suffer for their actions, and if so, how much? Well, these are the questions central to the 2022 Spanish movie Piggy. Now, nothing ruins a holiday quicker than having to be in proximity with a bunch of dickheads, and that's exactly the case here, as lead Sarah is tormented by a group of girls because of her weight, but later on sees the same group being assaulted and kidnapped. As the only witness to the crime, she's faced with 2 choices: try to save those who made her life a living hell and become the target of the same guy, or do nothing and potentially condemn them to death. Piggy's blend of relatable horror and more outlandish fictional drama keeps the movie grounded throughout, but it's main actress Laura Gallen who really sells the flick. She gives an absolute powerhouse of a performance and goes all in on this role, acting as the emotional anchor that the action needs. It's a compelling and thought-provoking flick, and one that came out of nowhere last year. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have you seen any of these movies, and are there any other overlooked ones you think deserve more recognition? Like, I would really like to know going into this next year. While you're down there as well, if you could, please also give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to What Culture Horror for more lists like this on the regular. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.